Stephen Hawking spent decades trying to understand the deepest mysteries of our universe. But perhaps his most profound work wasn't about black holes or the Big Bang. It was about something much more personal, something that touches every single one of us. What happens to our soul when we die? And how does the strange world of quantum physics play a role in this ancient question? Before we dive deeper into this fascinating topic, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop a comment below telling me your city or country, and if you're finding this content valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-expanding content about the mysteries of our universe. Hawking believed that consciousness itself might be quantum in nature. Think about it this way. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each one firing electrical signals thousands of times per second. But here's where it gets interesting. Some scientists now think these neurons might be using quantum effects to process information in ways we never imagined possible. The quantum realm is a place where the normal rules of physics break down completely. Particles can exist in multiple places at once. They can be connected across vast distances instantly. They can even seem to travel backward through time. If our consciousness really does operate using quantum mechanics, then what we call the soul might not disappear when our physical body dies. Roger Penrose, Hawking's longtime collaborator, proposed something revolutionary. He suggested that consciousness arises from quantum processes happening inside tiny structures within our brain cells called microtubules. These structures are so small that quantum effects can actually influence how they work. When we think, when we feel, when we experience anything at all, these quantum processes might be creating what we experience as our inner life. But here's where Hawking's thinking became truly groundbreaking. He realized that if consciousness is quantum, then it follows the same strange rules as everything else in the quantum world. And one of the most important rules in quantum mechanics is that information can never be completely destroyed. Let me explain this with a simple example. Imagine you have a book and you burn it. In the normal world, we'd say the information in that book is gone forever. But quantum mechanics tells us something different. Every atom that made up that book, every bit of energy released when it burned, still carries traces of the original information. Nothing is ever truly lost. Hawking spent years wrestling with what scientists call the information paradox. When something falls into a black hole, what happens to all the information it contained? For decades, physicists thought this information was destroyed forever. But Hawking eventually concluded that this was impossible. The information must survive somehow, even if we can't see how. This same principle might apply to human consciousness. When our physical body dies, the quantum information that makes up our thoughts, our memories, our sense of self, might not simply vanish. Instead, it could persist in ways we're only beginning to understand. The quantum world operates on principles that seem almost magical compared to our everyday experience. Take quantum entanglement, for example. When two particles become entangled, they remain connected no matter how far apart they travel. Change one particle, and the other changes instantly, even if it's on the other side of the universe. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance because it seemed to violate everything we thought we knew about how the world works. But experiments have proven that quantum entanglement is real. And if our consciousness really is quantum, then perhaps our souls can become entangled too. Maybe the deep connections we feel with other people aren't just emotional or psychological. Maybe they're actual quantum connections that persist even after death. Hawking also explored the possibility that our universe might be just one of countless parallel universes existing simultaneously. In this multiverse theory, every possible version of reality exists somewhere. There's a universe where you made different choices, where history unfolded differently, where the laws of physics might even work in completely different ways. If this is true, then perhaps what we call the soul doesn't just survive death in our universe. It might continue existing across multiple universes, experiencing different versions of reality simultaneously. Death in one universe might simply be a transition to continued existence in others. The implications are staggering. Think about the people you've lost, the loved ones who are no longer with you in this physical world. According to these quantum theories, they might still exist in some form, their consciousness preserved in the quantum fabric of reality itself. Scientists have discovered that quantum effects might play a crucial role in many biological processes we never expected. Plants use quantum mechanics to harvest energy from sunlight more efficiently than any human-made solar panel. Birds might use quantum effects to navigate during migration. Even the process of photosynthesis relies on quantum phenomena. If quantum mechanics is already operating throughout the natural world, why not in consciousness too? Our brains might be quantum computers far more sophisticated than anything we've built in our laboratories. Every thought you're having right now might involve quantum processes that we're only just beginning to understand. Hawking suggested that consciousness might be like a wave in the quantum field that underlies all of reality. Just as electromagnetic waves can travel through space long after their source has stopped transmitting, perhaps consciousness waves can persist in the quantum realm long after the brain that created them has ceased to function. This doesn't mean that life after death would be like anything we typically imagine. There might not be pearly gates or burning fires. Instead, it might be something far stranger and more wonderful. Our consciousness might merge with the quantum field itself, becoming part of the fundamental structure of reality. Some physicists have proposed that the entire universe might be a kind of cosmic consciousness, with individual minds being temporary fluctuations in this vast quantum sea. When we die, we don't disappear. We simply return to the source from which we came. But Hawking was always careful to distinguish between scientific speculation and religious belief. He wasn't trying to prove that traditional ideas about the soul are correct. Instead, he was exploring how modern physics might give us new ways to think about consciousness and what happens when we die. The quantum realm challenges our most basic assumptions about reality. Particles can tunnel through barriers that should be impossible to cross. They can exist in multiple states simultaneously until the moment they're observed. They seem to respond to the consciousness of the observer in ways that suggest mind and matter are more deeply connected than we ever imagined. If consciousness is quantum, then perhaps the boundary between mind and matter isn't as clear as we think. Maybe consciousness doesn't just observe reality. Maybe it actually helps create it. Every time you observe something, every time you make a choice, you might be collapsing quantum possibilities into a single reality. This means that your consciousness, your soul, might be actively participating in the creation of the universe itself. You're not just a passive observer of reality. You're an active participant in bringing it into existence moment by moment. Hawking also explored the relationship between time and consciousness in the quantum realm. In our everyday experience, time moves in one direction, from past to future. But in the quantum world, time can behave very differently. Particles can influence events in their own past. Information can travel backward through time. If consciousness operates according to quantum rules, then perhaps our experience of time isn't as fixed as we think. Maybe the soul exists outside of normal time, able to access past and future simultaneously. This could explain phenomena like precognition, where people seem to know about events before they happen, or the strange sense of timelessness that some people report during near-death experiences. The famous double-slit experiment shows us just how strange the quantum world really is. When scientists fire individual particles at a screen with two slits, the particles behave like waves, creating an interference pattern that suggests each particle somehow went through both slits at once. But when scientists try to observe which slit the particle actually went through, the wave pattern disappears, and the particles start behaving like normal particles again. This suggests that consciousness, the act of observation itself, plays a fundamental role in determining the nature of reality. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics propose that consciousness is required to collapse the wave function, to turn quantum possibilities into definite realities. If this is true, then consciousness might be one of the most fundamental forces in the universe, as important as gravity or electromagnetism. And if consciousness is that fundamental, then it makes sense that it wouldn't simply disappear when the brain dies. Hawking's final papers explored the possibility that information in black holes might be preserved through quantum effects we don't fully understand yet. He suggested that the event horizon of a black hole might not destroy information but instead transform it in ways that allow it to eventually escape. The same might be true for consciousness. Death might not destroy the information that makes up our sense of self. Instead, it might transform this information, allowing it to persist in the quantum realm in forms we can't yet detect or measure. Recent experiments in quantum biology have shown that quantum effects can influence biological systems in ways that seemed impossible just a few years ago. Scientists have found quantum coherence in photosynthesis, in enzyme reactions, and even in the way DNA replicates itself. The boundary between the classical world we see and the quantum world of fundamental particles is much blurrier than we once thought. This gives us reason to believe that consciousness might indeed operate through quantum mechanisms. Our brains might be using quantum effects to process information, to store memories, and to create the unified experience we call consciousness. If this is true, then the soul might be more real than many scientists have been willing to admit. Not as some supernatural entity separate from the physical world, but as a quantum phenomenon that emerges from the complex interactions of particles and fields at the deepest level of reality. Hawking believed that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. The quantum realm has already shown us that reality operates according to principles that seem to defy common sense. Particles that exist in multiple places at once, actions that influence distant events instantaneously, information that cannot be destroyed no matter what happens to the matter that contains it. In this strange quantum universe, the persistence of consciousness after death doesn't seem as impossible as it once did. It might not happen in the way traditional religions describe, but it might happen nonetheless, through mechanisms that physics is only beginning to understand. The question of what happens to the soul in the quantum realm touches on some of the deepest mysteries of existence. How does consciousness arise from matter? What is the relationship between mind and reality? Are we truly separate individuals? Or are we all part of some larger cosmic consciousness? Hawking's work suggests that these questions don't have simple answers, but they do have answers that are far more interesting and profound than anything we might have imagined. The quantum realm offers us new ways to think about consciousness, death, and the possibility that something essential about who we are might survive the end of our physical existence. We're living in an extraordinary time in human history. For the first time, we have scientific tools powerful enough to probe the deepest mysteries of consciousness and reality. We're beginning to understand how quantum effects might influence biological systems and how consciousness might emerge from quantum processes. The work that Hawking and his colleagues have done opens up possibilities that previous generations could never have imagined. The soul might not be just a matter of faith or philosophy. It might be a quantum phenomenon that we can study, understand, and perhaps even detect using the tools of modern science. This doesn't diminish the mystery or the wonder of consciousness. If anything, it deepens it. The quantum realm is a place of infinite possibility, where the normal rules don't apply and where consciousness might play a role in shaping reality itself. As we continue to explore these ideas, we might discover that death is not an ending but a transformation. That consciousness is not confined to the brain but extends throughout the quantum field that underlies all of reality. That the soul is not separate from the physical world but is instead the most fundamental aspect of what the physical world really is. Hawking's journey through the quantum realm of consciousness reminds us that we are part of something much larger and more mysterious than our everyday experience suggests. We are quantum beings living in a quantum universe, connected to each other and to the cosmos itself in ways we are only beginning to understand. The next time you look up at the stars, remember that you are made of the same quantum stuff as those distant suns. The particles in your body, the thoughts in your mind, the consciousness that makes you who you are, all of it is part of the same quantum tapestry that weaves together the entire universe. And if Hawking is right, that tapestry doesn't end when our physical bodies die. It continues, transformed but not destroyed, carrying forward the information that makes us who we are into realms of existence we can barely imagine. If you've made it this far, I hope this exploration of consciousness and the quantum realm has given you something to think about. The universe is far stranger and more wonderful than most of us realize, and we are far more connected to it than we ever imagined. Please give this video a like if it resonated with you, subscribe for more content exploring the deepest mysteries of our existence, and let me know in the comments what aspects of consciousness and quantum physics fascinate you the most. The journey of discovery is just beginning, and there's so much more to explore together.